Hi everybody. So I'm posting this video regarding the difference in what I see it as rent to rent versus actually purchasing the asset itself. So and my thoughts around them. So the first thing to say, what is rent to rent? So rent to rent is, as a lot of you would already know, is when you are approaching existing landlords or owners of properties and asking them to rent their homes to you, and then you then re-rent them thereafter. So the idea is, let's say for example you rent a 3-bedroom house from a landlord who's earning, I don't know, £1,000 a month, and you strike up a deal with him or her that you would actually rent their home from them as a company, and then you then will be doing other things with that home, but that will guarantee their income of £1,000. So that kind of, it's good for the landlord, because for them it's de-risking the proposition. As long as your company's stable, you know, for me, if somebody was approaching me, I'd want to see their books and see whether they've got financial stability, not just to give it to anybody, to get the house to anybody. So the first thing would be to say that's what rent to rent is. So you, as a potential investor, will go and rent a house from from a landlord, pay them their monthly rent. If you have to, maybe, you know, sometimes you have to pay a little bit more to get that house. And the idea that then you will, you know, for example, let's take a strategy, you will run them as a HMO. So you will then rent each room, let's say on average for £400 a month. So that you get £2,000, you pay the £1,000 to the landlord, all your costs and everything else somewhere around the £500 mark. So that's your gas, electricity, water, council tax, broadband, cleaner, etc, etc. So the total costs you 1,500 quid, and then you make £500 a month, which is, you know, again, you know, it's not to be sniffed at. You know, you do that over a few times, over a few rent to rents. That's great. I mean, I know a few people that I've coached recently that I've got quite a few rent to rents, and they're probably earning around 2.5 grand, 3 grand a month of earnings, which is brilliant. And I think it's from a strategy perspective, it's a very quick, not so easy in my view to get the right house and the right price, but let's say you do get them, you can get a kind of passive income stream started fairly quickly. Hopefully, you know, the idea is that, you know, you understand how to run a HMO, and you get your licensing, the upfront cost of converting the house, and then obviously the downstream cost of then undoing that house after 3 or 5 years, that the agreement you've signed up with the landlord. My challenge is, it's not so much the passive income, but at least you kind of know what's good about rent to rent, and it's easy. You don't have to do that much kind of capital investment if you don't have that. So I see it for what it is in terms of investment of your time to find those deals and growing a passive income. So my challenge, where I take issue with this, is basically in the long run. So in the long run, the whole point of property investment is building wealth. Now, wealth is different to having income. So you can have income but not have wealth. So in my view, that's what rent to rent is doing. So you provide your income, but actually your wealth in the kind of the long run view of what wealth is, which is, you know, you're kind of deriving passive income with not a lot of effort over time. That doesn't happen with rent to rent, because rent to rent, you will always have to, you know, go out and you know, negotiate these deals, put the tenants in this scenario, run the HMOs. But the problem is, after 3 or 5 years that you've kind of signed up with that landlord, let's say in 5 years time, that house has right now, you know, that in this case, you know, the house has been growing about 10% annually, which is crazy pricing, crazy increases. But let's say that happens, and in 5 years time the house is worth 50% more than what it was 5 years ago. So the landlord thinks, you know what, actually I'm going to cash out now, I'm going to sell, because I'm getting too old, I don't want to do this anymore. They sell the house. You then have a problem, because your income stream disappears overnight because the contract's ended. Your £500, let's say you have that unfortunate situation where all 5 of them in this scenario is turned off. So you go from making 2.5 grand a month to nothing in 5 years from now. So my issue around people, you know, investing a lot of time and effort and money over the long run to have more and more rent to rent, I think there's a problem with that, because whilst you can replace your income fairly quickly, the challenge is you really need to think about what that impact is looking like in 5 years from now. I guess my advice would be, we really need to be owning these assets. The more assets we own, and I know that sounds obvious, that sounds a given. People are going to say, well, I don't have the money to buy the actual asset to begin with because it's 25% deposit. Average house is roughly 300,000, so it's a lot of money. I hear all of that argument. I get it. I've been there, and I understand how hard it is. Having said all of that, the proposal that I'm putting forward here is build your passive income, do the rent to rent, get to enough money where you're comfortable to replace you're financially independent. But don't stop there. You've got to think that, let's say the first 5 gives you your monthly salary, the next 5 really should be used as a savings to start building deposits, so then you start owning these assets. The reason why that is because I was coaching somebody the other day with 50 rent to rents, which is great. Some making £200, some making £500. The challenge is, at some point, the management part of it is astronomical. The underlying growth is not there, so the asset value is growing. Like, for example, the last 2 years they've grown 10% on average annually. They are not going to get any benefit of that. Actually, these landlords are going to get it. So that's just a quick thought around my view around wealth building, my view around rent to rent, and also the challenge that poses, and more importantly, what you need to be thinking about in the long run to build passive income, where quite frankly, you just can get a few people to run the portfolio for you. You don't need to be in this country. You can do whatever the hell you want. There's enough income coming in to have a lifestyle that you want. The challenge is you need to start now. So you've got to start investing or redirecting some of that money into owning these assets today, because if you're not owning it today, you're not getting the growth that's actually being acquired by these landlords at the moment. Hope that helps. Any questions, any comments, please post below, and I'll see you at the next video.